A single note hits, and a wave of goosebumps runs up your arms before you even understand why. You didn't choose this reaction. Nobody taught it to you. It arrives faster than thought, faster than language, faster than anything you could explain if someone asked you to. Here's the strange part. Deep inside prehistoric caves, in chambers our ancestors never lived in, researchers have found something that might explain exactly where that feeling comes from, and it has almost nothing to do with the music itself. For years, researchers who study prehistoric sites have been mapping the acoustics of deep cave systems, the same caves where some of humanity's oldest paintings were made. What they found was strange from the start. The paintings weren't scattered evenly throughout the caves. They clustered overwhelmingly in specific chambers, and when researchers measured the sound properties of those exact chambers, they discovered something remarkable. The painted chambers had dramatically different acoustics than the unpainted ones: longer echoes, stronger resonance, spots where a single voice or a single struck rock could ring out and fill the entire space. In other words, ancient humans appear to have chosen where to paint based partly on how a space sounded, not just how it looked. Sound familiar? It should, because the same instinct that pulled someone deep into a cave to paint beside a resonant wall is the same instinct pulling chills up your arms right now, whenever a swelling chord hits exactly the right moment in a song. Here's the mechanism worth understanding. Researchers who study the neuroscience of music have found that the chills you feel during a powerful musical moment are tied to the brain's reward circuitry, the same system that responds to food, warmth, and physical safety. But what triggers that release isn't volume or beauty alone. It's expectation. Your brain is constantly predicting what sound comes next, and the chill hits hardest in the moment a piece of music builds tension and then resolves it in a way that's surprising, yet still feels inevitable. This means the chill isn't really about the note. It's about the gap between what your brain expected and what actually happened, closing in a satisfying way, all in a fraction of a second. Now, think about that resonant cave chamber. A single struck rock in a space with the right acoustics doesn't just make sound. It creates an echo that builds, swells, and lingers, an unpredictable, expanding wave of sound in a completely silent, enclosed space. To a brain that had never before experienced anything like a swelling, unresolved tone stretching out in the dark, that moment would have delivered an enormous, uncontrollable jolt of exactly the kind of expectation-defying pattern your brain still chases in music today. This is where it gets stranger. A separate line of research, this time studying the layout of ancient painted chambers more closely, found that the most acoustically resonant spots weren't just occasionally decorated. They were often marked with images specifically positioned at the points of maximum resonance, the exact spot in the chamber where sound would ring out the longest and loudest, which suggests something remarkable. Some of the very first visual art humans ever made may have been placed deliberately to mark or respond to a powerful acoustic experience rather than the other way around, which flips a common assumption. We tend to think of cave art as purely visual, something to be looked at, but there's a real possibility that some of it was closer to architecture for sound, images built around an experience of hearing something extraordinary in an ordinary, silent world. You felt a distant cousin of this feeling yourself, probably in a much more mundane setting. The particular hush you feel walking into an empty cathedral, a parking garage, or a large echoing stairwell, testing your own voice just to hear it swell and return to you. That small thrill isn't random. It's an old circuit lighting up, one built long before cathedrals, long before instruments, long before music had a name. Here's the part that should genuinely reframe how you think about your favorite song. If chills evolve from a brain rewarding unexpected, resonant, expectation-breaking sound patterns in the natural world, then a modern producer building tension into a chorus, or a composer holding a note just slightly longer than expected before releasing it into a full chord, isn't inventing a new trick. They're recreating, with extraordinary precision, the exact same acoustic surprise that once echoed off a cave wall lit only by firelight. This also explains why chills often hit hardest during live music rather than recordings. A live space has real resonance, real unpredictability. The sound bouncing unevenly off real surfaces the way it did in that ancient chamber, rather than the flattened, perfectly controlled version delivered through headphones. Let's go a layer deeper. Researchers who study group behavior and ancient ritual sites have found that resonant chambers were sometimes used for gatherings involving multiple people at once, not solitary visits. When several voices or rhythmic sounds combine inside a highly resonant space, the overlapping echoes create a much denser, more complex wave of sound than any single voice could produce alone. Several researchers studying these sites have proposed that this kind of shared acoustic intensity may have played a role in early group bonding, a physical, shared jolt of the same overwhelming feeling experienced together in the dark. This might explain something curious about music today. Why a chill-inducing moment in a song often feels more powerful in a packed concert hall than it does completely alone. The overlapping presence of other bodies, other breathing, other tiny reactions in the same resonant space might be tapping into something extremely old, a shared acoustic experience once used to bind small groups of humans together long before language could do the same job. Here's something worth sitting with. Chills are involuntary. You cannot consciously decide to feel them, and trying to force them usually makes them disappear entirely. That involuntary quality is itself a clue. It suggests this response isn't a learned cultural habit picked up from concerts or movies. It's closer to a reflex, something wired in at a level beneath conscious control, the same level that makes you flinch at a sudden loud noise or catch your breath at the edge of a cliff, which raises an unsettling possibility. The exact sensation you associate with your favorite artist, the one that makes a particular bridge in a particular song feel almost sacred, might be running on circuitry that has nothing to do with music, culture, or taste at all. It might simply be your ancient sound prediction system, the same one once tuned to reward unexpected, resonant echoes bouncing through the dark, finally getting exactly the kind of pattern it was built millennia ago to notice. Think about the last time a song genuinely surprised you. The way the pre-chorus held back just slightly longer than you expected, the way the drop landed a half-second later than your body had already braced for. That gap, small and precise, wasn't a flaw in the songwriting. It was the entire mechanism. Your brain built a prediction. The artist deliberately delayed it. And when the resolution finally arrived, something ancient inside you reacted exactly the way it once did to a single voice ringing out and returning through a stone chamber thousands of years ago. And maybe that's the real answer to why a single note can raise the hair on your arms before you've even had time to think. It was never really about the note at all. It was about the echo. Long before headphones, before concert halls, before instruments existed in any form you'd recognize, someone stood in the dark, made a sound, and felt the room answer back. You're still chasing that same answer every time the chills arrive.